Good morning. Hi everybody, this is Pip Coleman coming in to do the Find Your Soul show, and welcome. Hope you're having a beautiful morning. We are going to start the month with some discussion. This month's topic is all about truth and being a truthful soul. And so each week for the next 4 weeks, we're going to talk about being truthful, what it means to tell the truth, what does honesty mean to you, and what happens when you tell the truth, what happens when you are honest with yourself, what happens when you're honest with other people. What does it mean? What does it all mean? And so welcome to the show. Hi, Kerry. Welcome. Good morning. We are going to dive into our topic today with a little bit of, I wanted to read you a little bit from a book called Light is the New Black, which is a book by Rebecca Campbell. Light is the New Black, that's what the cover looks like. And one of the beautiful things about her book is that she gives you lots of little tools all the way through, and it's a guide to answering your soul's calling and working your light. So we read it in my spiritual book club that I meet once a month, and we thought it was really cool because it gave you lots and lots of different tools to help you bring your light to the surface, to shine your light brighter in the world, and to be more authentic and brave and truthful about yourself. And so the page that I opened it up to today, because I was looking for some beautiful references for you to tap into your truth and start speaking more honestly about your life. I opened it up to the page 63, which it is titled Inauthenticity No Longer Stands a Chance. And I thought, well, that's interesting, because when we're speaking about our truth, that is what it is, isn't it? Like, it's being authentic. And that whole concept of being inauthentic, what does that mean, you know? And so she's talking about pretending, and how pretending takes effort, and effort leaves you depleted. And that's why we feel like we need to start telling the truth, you know? So we spend a lot of time in our lives being things that we think other people need us to be. So we're pretending, yeah? We're doing the things we think that they want us to do so that they'll like us or love us or appreciate or acknowledge or see us in some way. And after a while, that gets tiring. So what I'm going to be talking about this month is about ways to tell the truth, questions to ask yourself that will help you to be more truthful with yourself, so that you can go out into the world and stop pretending. And I think that's something that's really important, because it is tiring. I remember reading one of the Conversations with God books, and he was talking about, if you don't know, Neil Donald Walsh, I've mentioned him before, but the Conversation with God book, I remember him talking about tap dancing, and that when we first meet somebody, we tap dance and we go, yada, 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 this is who I am. And you do this sort of dance for the person. And then they go, oh yeah, I like that. I like that dance that you're doing, and I like all that stuff that you're being. And so they continue to spend time with you, and you build a relationship with them, and and you continue to tap dance, and you tap dance, and you tap dance, and you tap dance. And then after a little while, you just go, oh, I'm so tired of tap dancing. Like, I'm exhausted. And so you stop tap dancing. And then the person usually says to you around about that point, you're not like you were when we met. Have you ever had that said to you? You're not like you were when we met. Or at the start of our relationship, you did blah, 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 but now you don't do any of that stuff. Because at the start of the relationship, you were tap dancing your butt off. You were like really, really going for it. And you were fully pretending. And perhaps some of that was true. Perhaps some of the things that you were doing were true. Some of the things might have actually been the real you, but some of the things that you were doing in your tap dance were actually for the other person. So if that makes sense to you, give me a little thumbs up or a heart, because I know it makes sense to me. And I remember that quote so vividly when I read that book, because it just made me go, yeah, that's what I've done. In my relationships, I have tap danced. I have really, really put on a show for people, not just in intimate relationships, but also perhaps in family and sometimes with new friends. You know, you want to put on your best face, but sometimes your best face is not actually the full and true, authentic you. So I just want to read this little bit from page 63 in Light is the New Black, because she explains it so beautifully. So she says, we're entering a time in history when we're moving from patriarchy to matriarchy, force to flow, masculine to masculine and feminine in balance. A time when inauthenticity no longer stands a chance. Gone are the days when we are rewarded for being good girls and boys just because we stick things out, do our time, and live the life of a lemming. Perhaps you've noticed in your own life, friendships that once felt like they lasted forever are drifting. Relationships that you've been clinging to are hanging by a thread. It's becoming harder and harder to show up to that job every day without your heart in it. And perhaps it's getting impossible to put on that chirpy face and fake your way through the day, or pretend you care about stuff that you don't. Pretending takes effort. The effort leaves us depleted. Life is throwing things at us to bring us back to the most authentic, fluid versions of ourselves. Our foundations are being shaken with only the parts of us rooted in authenticity able to survive. Relationships, jobs, friendships, things that we once took for granted are falling away. It can be painful. Change almost always is, especially when the change happens to impact the very foundation below us. The rug is being pulled, and many of us have no choice but to find somewhere new to put down our roots. Somewhere the ground is fertile and the view is sweet. And I wanted to read that from Light is the New Black by Rebecca Campbell, because the view from where life is sweet is the one from within you, is the one where you tell the truth about who you are, what you want, how you'd like to be, how you want to live your life. And you don't do that tap dance anymore. You are fully authentic. And some people would say that as you get older, you start to tap dance less. You start to do things less for other people and more for yourself. And some might say that that's selfish. And I say yes. Yes, it is. And it's very important to come from that space of centering yourself, self-alignment. That truth of you is really important to get out in the world and share with people, because that's where your light comes from. That's where you find your purpose. That's where you begin to come back to that authentic sense of self, and that's where you get your energy from. Because if you're tap dancing and doing things for other people, telling people what they want to hear, that is going to be exhausting for you. So I wanted to ask a question of you, those of you who are watching today. I wanted to ask you to share with me, when you've told a truth, what happens when you tell the truth? What has happened in the past when you've told the truth? Because it's really interesting when you contemplate what you've done, what's actually happened when you've told the truth. Have you had people not be happy with you? Have you felt like you were rejected because you told the truth? So feel free to share underneath in the comments. I'm not seeing comments today, so I'm not sure if people are commenting. So last week I had that same issue. So I'm going to trust that you're sharing your comments. And maybe I'll just see if I look at you on my computer, maybe there are some comments that I'm missing here. So I'll turn the sound off and I'll just see if you're commenting below and I'm just missing the comments. Aha, there we go. For some reason they weren't coming up on my screen. So yes, okay. So Kerry, that's great. So you've changed in the area of speaking up. That's fantastic because speaking up is a big thing. And some people don't like it. That's right. Because of course, if you have been, let's say your friendship or your relationship, you've been the person who goes, yes, yes, oh yes, whatever you say is great. I'll just go along with that. Everything's fine. And the person goes, wow, this person's really cool. They're really chilled. They go with the flow. Everything's awesome. And they keep going with that friendship. And then after a little while, you start to go, actually, no, I actually don't want to go to that restaurant, or I actually don't want to hang out with those other people that you like to hang out with. I'm actually going to do this over here. And that can be, people don't like that because they go, well, hang on a second. You know, you used to be really go with the flow and do whatever I wanted. And now you're actually saying that you don't want to do that. So that's interesting. And the more that we honor ourselves, the more we work out who our true and honest friends and relationships are. Isn't that right? Like, you always find that the people who don't like it and sort of push back against you being your true self or you having your own opinions are usually the ones who liked that old commitment that you had in the friendship or the relationship, and they're not the ones who are going to move forward with you into the future. So this is interesting. So Michelle, so you're talking about depending on the truth and the person that it's shared with. Right, great. So you've had rejection, sure, but mostly curiosity, joy, and freedom. That's cool. I agree. It definitely depends on the person that you share it with, because if you are telling a truth about yourself, whatever that truth might be, and it's coming from that really authentic place, that really loving place, then the person that you're sharing it with, you know, if you're sharing it with a partner and you're wanting to grow and you have a commitment to grow in that relationship and you're both open to hearing, you know, what needs to be said, then yeah, it can be an amazing experience to tell the truth and the person goes, wow, you've never shared that with me before. That's amazing. That really gets me to know you so much better, and we can move forward with that. Whereas if you tell the truth and the person goes, that's terrible, that's crap, you shouldn't have said that to me, you know, you're not my friend anymore. It's like, how interesting. So there was something there that didn't resonate. And under the surface, you know, sometimes I think we know who those people are going to be. Like if I said to you now, who are the people that you know you can share the truth with and they'd be fine? And who are the people that you know that if you shared the truth with them, they would flip out and like just lose their mind? You would know. You would be able to go, yeah, I know who those people would be. And that's interesting because then there's, you know, when you get into the practice of telling the truth, there is a point, I guess, at which you decide whether or not you're going to keep that person in your space if they are somebody who doesn't support you being your authentic, true self. And that's an interesting thing to contemplate, because then we have to look at who do we really want around us. And that's a truth as well. And that's an honesty with ourselves that's really important. You know, and I'm sure that you can all relate to that concept of people falling away that Rebecca mentioned in that quote in the book, saying, you know, people that might drift away friendships, people that you used to be close to, maybe family, and that's something that we need to weigh up in terms of what's more important. Is it more important to be authentically you and stand in your full authentic truth, or is it more important to continue the tap dance and not really be living a truthful life? And that's something that only you can decide. Maybe there's a way that some people can be kept in your space, that perhaps it's a parent or somebody who you want to keep in your space, but you need to change the way that you relate to them. Perhaps you limit the amount of time that you spend with them, or you shift the things that you tell that person. So you start to be a little bit more mindful about what it is that you say, and you find other people who do actually resonate with your truth, and you bring them into your inner circle. So that's cool. So thank you for sharing what happens when you've told the truth. And I guess the next thing that I wanted to ask you was, when we think about telling the truth, we beat ourselves up a little bit, and I wanted to make it clear that telling the truth doesn't mean beating yourself up about the reality of the situation. It's or beating another person up, and I don't mean physically, I mean, whatever, in any way, making chastising or making somebody feel bad about the truth, because what it's about is honoring your soul and acknowledging your feelings, your true feelings, and supporting yourself first. And that's what I wanted to touch base with you about. So let's say, for example, that you're having a feeling come up around, let's say it's something about work, and you're not really enjoying where you're working, and so you're starting to ask those questions, those seeker questions, like, is this really what I want to be doing? What else would I prefer to be doing? And how would I rather be working? Who would I rather be working with? Where would I rather be working? And if those are the sort of questions that you're asking yourself, then you're beginning to tell the truth. You're beginning to look at the situation that you're in and go, is this really what I want? And the same thing could happen in a relationship. You might be going, is this person behaving in a way that is loving towards me? Am I behaving in a loving way to this other person? Are we starting to take each other for granted? Do we need to look at ways that we can be more loving to each other? Have we both been tap dancing and not realized that we were tap dancing? Do we need to reset? So that honoring of yourself is really important. And that's where, some people talk about the 7-year itch. Every 7 years, there's a sort of a cycle that happens. And the number 7 is quite interesting because, if Michelle was here, she would talk about the number 7 in terms of numerology. And I know the number 7 to be about cycles, coming to and the end of a cycle, coming to a point where you start to reset yourself. Every 7th wave in the ocean is a big wave. So if you're ever watching the waves, or if you're a surfer, you would know this, or somebody who goes out into the ocean, you would know that every 7th wave is bigger. So that's what the surfers are waiting for when they're sitting out there waiting on the ocean. They're waiting for that big wave. So that's what happens. There's 7, they said in the Bible that the earth was created in 7 days. There's lots of different analogies around the number 7, and it's quite interesting when you think about it in terms of cycles. And it does usually happen that around about the 7th year, there is a questioning of where are we? What are we doing? How does it work? What's going on? And then that means that you're starting to reset. There's a period of telling the truth, looking at the relationship, and then resetting. And that happens in jobs and things too. It's because every 7 years we start to get a little bit like, itchy feet, you know? And that could be a good thing, like Michelle was commenting about, you know, that when she shared her truth, you know, sometimes it was like, wow, curiosity, joy, freedom, you know, taking things to the next level. And that is an amazing place to be in. So that's fantastic. And if you are in a space where you're not happy with your situation and you're starting to do that negative spiraling, you know, why is this happening to me? Why does this always happen to me? What, you know, what's wrong with me? Like if you're starting to have those sorts of thoughts, that's where we need to do a truth reset. So the truth reset is something, you may have heard this before, but you ask 3 questions of yourself if you're in that sort of negative spiral. The first question is what I'm thinking or about this situation true? So if you're going, you know, oh my God, I'm so awful, I've done these horrible things, you know, or I'm terrible at my job and that's why I'm not liking it anymore, and you're kind of going down that spiral, the first question to ask, you go, oh, hang on a second, I'm doing that negative, going down the rabbit hole thing. You ask yourself, is it true? Is it actually true? Are you actually bad at your job? Are you actually not good at making decisions? Are you actually a terrible person? In truth, you know, let's really look at this and be honest with ourselves. In truth, are we those things? And usually the answer to that question is no. If you really go within and ask yourself, am I, you know, is it really true? Then you can usually find that it's not really true. It's not really true in the sense of your inner being. It's just thoughts that you're having and that that are coming up to help you start to change. The second thought is this way of thinking relevant? Is it really relevant to, is it helpful? Is it helpful to do that? Is it something, is thinking this way really helping me? And usually the answer is no. This thinking this way is really not helping me. So you can think about the way out of it. If you recognize that you're not being very kind to yourself, if you recognize that you're not that what you're thinking is actually not helpful, then you can actually start to think about, well, what is helpful? And you can ask yourself a better question, which is it kind? No, it's probably not being kind to yourself. You're not being helpful, you're not being kind, you're not being relevant, it's not even true. And usually when we go down that spiral, all of those things, the answer is no. And so then you can start to ask yourself better questions, like what is true? What is my soul's truth? What is helpful? What would be helpful in this moment? And what is a kind and loving thing that I can do for myself? So have a think about that in terms of, you know, maybe getting a little bit of mindfulness around your truth telling, and see how that sits with you in the next week. And we're going to talk a little bit more next week about telling the truth to yourself, feeling, knowing, imagining, and bringing light to your shadow. So we're going to talk a little bit about that next week, which will be awesome. But I'm going to finish up today. Thank you for joining me. It's, oh, Michelle, sorry, I just saw your comment. Yeah, okay. You left one of the best jobs you had for one of the worst because of that negative spiral. Yeah. Yep. That makes perfect sense, Michelle. Like sometimes we go into that space of negativity and we make decisions that really don't serve us. Although, having said that, in the grander scheme of things, that decision that you made actually took you to a learning place in the job that wasn't the one that you really liked, so that you could realize that you did have confidence in yourself and that that job was a really good job. Do you know what I mean? So in the grander scheme of things, it actually was a learning experience for you, and it was an important learning experience for you. But that reflection is something that is also important to know. So yeah, I really like that. So I'm going to read to you a little love prayer around truth from the wonderful Robert Holden. The book Life Loves You is gorgeous. He and Louise Hay wrote this book, and I wanted to read this to you at the end. So you're welcome to close your eyes if you're somewhere where you can close your eyes, and I'm just going to read this little prayer so that we can finish up today on a high note. So, taking a nice deep breath, closing your eyes. Beloved one, you cannot judge yourself and know who you are. The truth about you cannot be judged. Put aside your judgments then for one sweet, holy moment, and let me show you something wonderful. See what it is like to be you when you stop judging yourself. What you judge is just an image. After the last judgment, you will know yourself again. Love will appear in your own mirror to greet you as a friend, for you are lovable and you are made of love, and that is the truth. So thank you so much for joining me. It was lovely to talk to you all. Kerry, Michelle, thank you for your comments, and anyone else who comments later when they watch this video. I look forward to talking to you next week about being truthful, a truthful soul. And coming soon, if you're not already on my mailing list, please go to pipcoleman.com and subscribe for my mailing list newsletter, because a new program is going to be launched very soon. The Divine Alignment Code is coming soon to you, and that is going to be all about knowing yourself deeply and aligning yourself to your divine inner self. So I look forward to setting up and sharing that coaching program with you very, very soon. So take good care, and I'll see you next week. Bye for now.